How to tell if your twin flame is thinking about you, and even better, I'm going to give you some hints on how you can actually make that happen so that they'll contact you. They'll stop rejecting you. If they've got you blocked, they might even unblock you, and I'm serious. And I have to tell you something. I've helped people do this a lot of times. I've personally coached 6,000 twin flame students to date. And guys, this keeps working. This is so fantastic. What I'm going to share with you today. This is going to be a very different approach to twin flames if you're new here than I think you've ever heard of before. So, how can we tell if your twin flame is thinking about you? Let's go through the signs. I'm just going to list them off, and then we're going to get into why those signs are taking place, and through that explanation, I think you'll be able to see how you could actually get that to start happening. So sign number one, you have stopped thinking about them. You're not even focused on them. Remember, everybody's using this lingo in the twin flame community online. Divine feminine, divine masculine. Well, here's the thing. It's not really based on biological gender, right? You could take the labels out. Call one of them a ham sandwich and the other one a jelly donut. It doesn't really matter. It's energy, my friends. It's energy, duality. That's what they've always called that in the discipline of spiritualism. In the discipline of science, they call it relativity. And this is the mind. The mind works on duality. The soul is non-duality or singularity, but the mind is duality. And so at the level of the mind, you are polar opposites with your twin flame. You push, they pull. It's that simple. So this mental and emotional energy that you're experiencing, very, very intense. The obsessive thinking, you can't sleep at night. You really can't stop thinking about them. It's like the obsessive thinking, it's such a dead giveaway that it's your twin flame because it's like it's happening to you. You cannot stop. You can't turn it off. And I'm here to let you know it does go away. And I'm going to give you some clues on how to maybe speed that up a little bit. But it's really, really painful. It's like so much thinking that it hurts. Very bizarre. Now, when you stop thinking about them and you're not even really focused on them, what do you think's going to happen for them? Remember duality. If you stop thinking about them, do you think they might start thinking about you? You and your twin flame are one being. There's a lot of different opinions on the internet about what to do about your twin flame. Lots of them. But the one thing everybody agrees on across the board is that it's one soul in two bodies, or it's like the soul splits, or you're the same soul vibration, or something like that, right? Everybody kind of says the same thing there, and it's absolutely true. They are your soul, and the soul is non-duality. And again, this is an ancient Zen spiritual teaching. These teachings I'm explaining to you, the mind is duality, the soul is non-duality consciousness. Thousands of years old ancient Zen spiritual teachings. The true core of spiritualism, right? Not the healing and the clearing your chakras and balancing your inner feminine and masculine and clearing your karma and all these kinds of things, which aren't necessarily bad things to do, but that's just not what this journey is. This journey right here is the core of spiritualism. You are body, mind, soul. The mind is duality. The soul is non-duality. So I think I've really kind of covered the gamut on the first sign, but we'll go more deeply into that in just a moment. Okay, let's get to sign number two. Sign number two. You're going to start having some very interesting spiritual experiences. For example, it's like the mind just completely stops for a while, and you feel this deep sense of nirvana, inner peace. And I wouldn't quite call it bliss, but I suppose you could call it that. Words can mean different things to different people, but it's not good. It's not bad either. That's the thing. It's neither of those. It's not bad. It doesn't feel bad. But when you experience it, trying to explain what it is and what it feels like, yeah, it's not really good either. It's nice, but what is it? What's the word? Right. It's non-duality, right? The soul is non-duality. It's not good or bad. Good or bad is duality. That's the mind. And they have a word for this experience. They call it satori. Now, if you want to know exactly what satori is, I've got a movie I'm going to recommend for you to watch, and you'll know exactly what it is. So if you've had that happen, or when that happens for you, you'll know what it is. Sign number 3. This knowing, this deep inner knowing. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to tell if you're experiencing this knowing. But it's not mental, it's not conceptual. You just know. Your twin flame is going to reach out soon, or you're going to run into them, or they're thinking about you, or something like that. Very interesting, very, very interesting. And notice the things that I seem to be pointing you at are deeper and more spiritual, aren't they? They're not mental exercises. And there's nothing wrong with mental exercises, but that's not what this is. So again, the healing and the fixing your inner child and clearing your chakras, those are all good things, but that's not going to help you here. And as a matter of fact, if you're doing those things, it makes your twin flame run harder if you're doing those things in order to get them to come back. It doesn't work like that. See, here's the thing. You are your twin flame. You are one being. Remember, twin flames, it's one soul in 2 bodies. So this diagram here is showing you what I'm talking about. And I've even seen this diagram around in other places. Other spiritual teachers using this diagram to explain reincarnation and how it works in conjunction with your higher self. But the difference is I added this extra little dot right here to show you that it's you and your twin flame, simultaneous incarnations of the same soul. So this teaching is very, very old. Everybody knows about this, right? It's been around for a long time. And interesting, I actually came to this conclusion on my own when teaching this twin flame phenomenon to people. And I think the thing that you'll like about me is I do it in a scientific way. And actually, what's interesting about this, when you understand what this diagram is showing you, it's perfectly in alignment with what relativity in quantum physics is telling us about how our universe works. And that's how I came up with it. I'd never seen this before. I drew it on a piece of paper one day. Now, several months later, I saw another spiritual teacher using this diagram, only it was somebody who's never even heard of twin flames. He was just a general spiritual teacher, so there wasn't these 2, dots here. It was just one, right? And I saw that and I was like, hey, awesome. Now, how can that be? Well, what happens if you look outside and you face east at 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning? You're going to see the sun come up. Well, I'm not the only person that noticed that, right? Just like this. So the higher self in heaven, which it's the afterlife, or it's really the before life, right? The energy part of the universe, as I call it, is timeless. On this plane, on this higher plane, Plane, there is no time. Time doesn't exist. You don't experience time when you leave your body. By the way, in relativity, right? Like Albert Einstein, general theory of relativity, physics, right? he pointed out that that's exactly how the universe really works. Like if you could actually enter one of those higher dimensions somehow and exist on that higher plane, you would experience the complete absence of time, which means all of these incarnations that you're experiencing in the 3D physical, where we do seem to experience time, from the perspective of your higher self, all of them are happening all at once. Your higher self is experiencing them all at the same time. And even physics says that's how the universe works. That's very interesting. Now, you and your twin flame are just simultaneous incarnations of the same soul. Your soul wants you to awaken. This is your spiritual awakening. Now, I know it's very painful. It's confusing. You might not be very happy with how your twin flame is acting right now, but I assure you it's all for a reason. And here's the thing. Most of you watching, if you take your focus off the physical person and embrace transcendentalism, which is not a religion, it's not even spiritualism, it's beyond that. It's not a belief system. And I'm not saying those things are bad. That's just not what this is. It's not a thought process. It's not action and doing. It's being. It's remembering who you really are. You're not the mind. You're not the ego personality. You're not the thinker. You're not the emotions. And we're not saying those things are bad. But ultimately, it's just not who you really are. You are consciousness. You are the awareness of thought. So, when you do that, guess what happens? Your twin flame starts thinking about you. Very interesting. That's the core of spiritualism, in quotation marks, if you can call it that. But again, it's beyond concept. It's beyond thought. So to even call it a name, spiritualism, that's just a word, and it's fine to call it that. That's what we say. That's the normal, everyday nomenclature that we're all used to. But ultimate reality, it's not conceptual, actually. You can't even technically label it because it's beyond form and concept. It's what you really are. Duality, that's concept. That's the mind, and that's fine. But it's not who you really are. So, you take your focus off the person and you go within. And I've got some resources for you. First, the movie that I mentioned. Okay, and this movie, by the way, this movie will point you at the second sign. So remember, the first sign was you're not really going to be focused on them. The thinking is going to stop. The second sign is Satori, a very deep nirvana experience of Zen. And the third sign, of course, is this knowing, which we're going to talk about in a second. But the movie, it's a documentary film. It's on YouTube, and it's free. It's called Samadhi, Samadhi, Samadhi. It's only an hour long. Go watch it tonight. So when you have this spiritual experience that I speak of, you're going to know exactly what it is after you've watched that movie. The movie is going to show you something that's going to seem very familiar to you. You're going to see the movie and you're going to say, yeah, I get what they're saying, but I can't quite explain it. Yeah, it's a knowing, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, the third sign, right? It's a knowing. It's very deep. It's intuitive. It's not conceptual. So watch it tonight. Watch part 1 first. Don't skip around. There's 3 parts. Just start with part 1. It's only an hour long. Now, the knowing. It's intuition, guys. That's all it is. Now, the mind is where, if you experience telepathy, you would be experiencing that. You would see and hear things in your third eye. And telepathy is awesome. But this is deeper. This is a knowing. It's like When you pick up meditation and you realize that you are the conscious presence, which is just the silent witness of the thinker, and I was to ask you, how do you know that you're consciousness? You would say, I just know. And some of you have already experienced this knowing that I speak of, like, yeah, I know they're my twin flame, or I know we're going to be together, or I know they're coming back, but I just can't explain it right. It's a lot like deja vu, because you feel like, I know I've done this before, but how do I know that, right? So that's the mind doubting, questioning. How do I know this? It's just talking. You think that it's you. You think that you are your mind, just like everybody else on Earth. And that's not your fault. That's just kind of the way it is on planet Earth. Well, I've got some good news for you. This is your awakening so that you can remember who you are. Consciousness. You are not the mind. Something interesting that'll happen, by the way, the mind will become your ally in due time. It's not your enemy. It's not your enemy. The ego mind, it's not a bad thing. But you'll remember who you really are, the consciousness, and you'll begin to wield the mind as a useful tool. And in the process, your twin flame, they're going to start thinking about you. So this knowing, it's information, but it's not mental information. The doubt, the questions, however, that is mental information. How do I know I've done this before? Or how do I know they're coming back, etc.? Right, that's a thought process. That's the mind. The knowing is the soul. And you're just going to know. You're just going to know that they're thinking about you. They're going to be coming back. Whatever it is, you just know. So there you go. There are the signs that your twin flame is thinking about you. Go watch my other free coaching videos on my True Twin Flame Teachings playlist on this YouTube channel. And get started today. Change your life today, my friends. This is the best thing that's ever happened to you. Trust me on that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.